In our 5th year of marriage, my wife tried to force a divorce on me for the boy toy she was keeping on the side. Consumed by rage, I got into a car accident, and when I woke up, I had amnesia. Staring at the divorce papers in front of me, I counted the zeros several times and then decisively signed my name. Should we go get divorced right now? Sarah was completely stunned. I was just staring into space when Sarah walked in. It took me 2 days of lying in this hospital bed to accept the fact that my wife was a billionaire CEO who was also keeping a boy toy on the side. Looking at the elegant, beautiful woman in front of me, I couldn't blame my past self for being so obsessed with her. She was genuinely gorgeous. Sarah narrowed her eyes, studying me. You really lost your memory? I nodded. Didn't you have the doctors examine me over and over again? Sarah said coldly, Daniel Miller, you'd better not be playing any games with me. I was speechless. Did she really think I was faking my amnesia? So, about the divorce. How much money are you planning to give me? If I couldn't keep her, I could at least keep her money. Sarah stared at me, her expression one of utter disbelief. What did you just say? You're agreeing to the divorce? It wasn't hard to understand her shock. Apparently, before the accident, I was madly in love with her. Just a few days ago, when she'd asked for a divorce, I had supposedly knelt on the floor, a mess of tears and snot, begging her not to leave me. Now, not only was I agreeing to the divorce, I was negotiating the settlement. I let out a sigh. You can't force these things. You don't love me anymore, so there's no point in me holding on. Let's just get the divorce. I used to be a food delivery driver. 5 years ago, while on a delivery, I happened upon 2 thugs harassing Sarah, and I stepped in to save her. She fell for me at first sight. I fell deeply in love with her too, and we quickly became a couple. Before long, I discovered she was an incredibly wealthy CEO. Knowing that a guy like me with nothing to his name wasn't good enough for her, I tried to break up with her. But Sarah refused, insisting she would only ever love me. Unfortunately, her parents looked down on a poor guy like me and refused to let their daughter marry me. To be with her, I had to become the Thompson family's live-in son-in-law. After that, Sarah changed. She started staying out all night, grew increasingly cold toward me, and eventually tried to force a divorce for her boy toy. And I, for my part, remained hopelessly in love with her, right up until the car accident that wiped my memory. I clicked my tongue. If you could rely on a woman like that, pigs could fly. Sarah eyed me suspiciously for a long moment before finally producing the divorce papers. I opened the agreement, and I was so shocked I had to rub my eyes, terrified I had miscounted the zeros. Oh my God, $90 million. I was finally a rich man. With tears welling up in my eyes, I looked up at Sarah, too emotional to speak. Honey, any chance you could add a little more? Just to round it up to an even 100 million. Sarah froze completely, then her brow furrowed in displeasure. Seeing her reaction, I dropped the haggling and cleared my throat awkwardly. No worries if you can't. It's a nice, lucky number as it is. Afraid she might change her mind, I snatched the pen and signed my name faster than you could blink. So, should we go finalize the divorce now? Sarah keeping a boy toy during our marriage caused me significant emotional distress. So, a $90 million settlement seemed perfectly reasonable. Sarah glanced at my hospital gown and reminded me, you're still a patient here. I'd almost forgotten I was still recovering. All right then, we can handle the paperwork after I'm discharged. Sarah didn't say a word, just turned with a cold expression and walked out. The moment she was gone, I looked down and counted the zeros on the settlement again, grinning from ear to ear as I dreamed about how I'd spend the fortune. 10 minutes later, my best friend, Mike Davis, walked in carrying a takeout container. Daniel, time to eat. I glanced over. It was a $10 meal box, and I immediately lost my appetite. I'm not eating this. Go to the Four Seasons next door and get me 2 orders of their best seafood stew. Mike's eyes went wide. Are you insane? That'll cost a few $1,000. I held up the divorce papers for him to see. See this? Sarah gave me a $90 million settlement. I can eat whatever I damn well please. When Mike saw the number, his eyes lit up. Holy crap, man, you're rich. The Thompsons were loaded, but as the live-in son-in-law, I had a low status and no money of my own. Mike knew I'd been living under their roof, dependent on them for years. He suddenly asked, so you agreed to the divorce. Does that mean you don't love Sarah anymore? Mike and I are close. He knew how I felt about Sarah, but with my amnesia, I naturally had no feelings for her. To me, she was just a stranger, or rather, my benefactor. Besides, when you're talking about this kind of money, love doesn't even enter the equation. I waved my hand dismissively. Plenty of fish in the sea. Now that I have money, I can find any kind of woman I want. Why would I waste my time on one who doesn't care about me? I raised an eyebrow. Once that money hits my account, we'll be living it up. Mike grinned and nodded enthusiastically. I'm on my way to get that seafood stew. My physical injuries weren't serious. The main issue was the head trauma and amnesia, and the doctors couldn't pinpoint the exact cause. They said I could be discharged whenever I felt ready. So, the very next day, I checked out and went home. The moment I walked in the door, I saw a young man standing in the living room. He had smooth skin and looked to be in his early 20s. I'd heard he was a college student. This had to be Sarah's boy toy, Leo Vance. Sarah and I weren't even officially divorced yet. The nerve of this kid showing up here. When Leo saw me, his eyes filled with contempt. I couldn't be bothered to deal with him, but he decided to start something. Some people have no shame. Even after getting dumped, they still hang around like a bad smell. My temper flared, and I strode toward him. Who the hell do you think you are? Get out. Just as Leo was about to retort, he suddenly collapsed to the floor, looking up at me with a wounded expression. I truly love Sarah. Daniel, please, just let us be together. I'm begging you. Sarah rushed forward, asking anxiously, Leo, what happened? Leo shook his head. I'm okay, Sarah. Don't blame Daniel. He didn't mean to push me. Sarah looked up at me, her voice filled with rage. Daniel Miller, what is wrong with you? You touch him again, I dare you. The blatant favoritism was impossible to ignore. Even with my memory gone, the thought that we'd been married for 5 years and she was treating me this way for another man sent a chill through me. I glanced down, saw the Hermes bag in Sarah's hand, and was instantly reminded of my $90 million settlement. My mood brightened immediately. Sarah, let's go get this divorce finalized right now. Sarah froze. Are you sure? I was confused. Didn't we already agree we'd handle the paperwork as soon as I was out of the hospital? Sarah glanced at Leo. Yes, I want a divorce. Leo turned his head to give me a triumphant smirk. I scoffed internally. Knowing Sarah's track record, he wouldn't be her last man. What did he have to be so smug about? Half an hour later, Sarah and I were at the county clerk's office. There weren't many people there to file for divorce, so our turn came up quickly. The clerk informed us that we couldn't finalize the divorce for another 30 days. That's when I learned about the mandatory cooling-off period. I was so anxious that we couldn't get it done immediately. Is there any way to expedite this? We're in a real hurry. We don't need to cool off. We're dead set on this divorce. And my words, Sarah's elegant face instantly darkened. The clerk looked helpless. Sir, we have to follow procedure. As we walked out of the office, Sarah turned to me. Are you really in that much of a hurry to divorce me? I shrugged. Look who's talking. If we don't get this done soon, how is your little boy toy supposed to get his promotion? Sarah was left speechless. That evening, when Sarah got home from work, I was already in the middle of a hearty dinner. The delicious food had cured the gloom I felt from not being able to finalize the divorce today. She looked surprised to see me eating without her. I glanced at her, and guess why? When I'd asked the housekeeper to serve dinner earlier, she mentioned that I normally waited for Sarah to get home before I ate. I had no interest in starving myself, so I told her to serve it right away. Sarah pinched the bridge of her nose and ordered me around as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Go make me some tea to sober up. Without a second thought, I replied, I don't know how. Make it yourself. Sarah stared at me, astonished, as if she couldn't believe I'd refused her. That's because the old me was a lovesick fool who hung on her every word. If she said go east, I'd never dare go west. I treated her commands like gospel. Sarah's voice turned cold. Daniel Miller, what is that supposed to mean? I didn't want to deal with her, but then I remembered the cooling off period. She could change her mind at any moment. So to avoid any complications, I got up to make her the tea. Sarah took a sip and frowned. This doesn't taste right. I rolled my eyes. I told you, I don't know how to make your special tea. Sarah gave me a long, meaningful look. You really don't remember anything about us? She must have asked me that 1,000 times since I woke up. She was one step away from wanting to crack my skull open to check for herself. That's right. I don't remember a thing. Sarah pressed her lips together, a flicker of disappointment in her eyes. Just as she turned to head upstairs, I stopped her. Her gaze softened for a moment, but then I asked my question. When we're divorced, can I take all the suits, watches, and shoes from the walk-in closet? Sarah wasn't worth holding on to, but the things she gave me definitely were. They were all designer brands. Even if I didn't wear them, I could sell them online and make a nice profit. The look on Sarah's face turned even sourer. Do whatever you want. With that, she turned and went upstairs. For the next few weeks, Sarah was incredibly busy, leaving early and coming home late. I knew she was out with Leo, but I didn't mind. I enjoyed the freedom of being on my own. The moment the cooling off period was over, I called Sarah. This time, we finally got the divorce finalized without a hitch. At the same time, I got a notification from my bank. The money was in my account. Seeing that much money, I couldn't wipe the grin off my face. Even Sarah started to look a lot better to me. Well, if there's nothing else, I'll be going. Seeing how happy I was, Sarah gave me a strange look, but still offered, "I'll give you a ride." I pointed to a scooter parked by the curb. "No thanks, Mike's giving me a ride." Before she could say another word, I hopped on the back of Mike's scooter, and we took off. It was dinner time, so we found a nearby food truck and grabbed a bite. I ordered enough food to cover the table. While we waited for our order, I was scrolling through my phone. Mike must have thought I was upset, because he patted my shoulder comfortingly. "If you need to cry, just let it out, man. Don't hold back." I get it. I was confused. Why would I cry? With this money, I can find a wife who's kinder and prettier than her. What's there to be sad about? "Hey, didn't you say a new bar opened up around here?" Mike nodded. "Yeah, I did." My interest was immediately piqued. "So, are there a lot of hot girls there?" That night, inside the bustling bar, Mike and I were in a booth, and I was sipping a drink while one of the waitresses gave me a shoulder rub. Suddenly, a tall, striking woman started walking toward our table. Mike leaned in and whispered in my ear, "That's Sarah Thompson's frenemy, Chloe Anderson. You used to get into a lot of fights with her on Sarah's behalf." Chloe stood there with her arms crossed, looking me over. "Daniel Miller, aren't you afraid I'll tell Sarah I saw you here?" I said casually, "We're divorced. She has no say in what I do." Chloe looked surprised. "You were actually willing to divorce her?" Before my amnesia, I was famously whipped. I wouldn't have dreamed of coming to a bar. I probably didn't even know what one looked like. Before I could say anything, Mike jumped in to explain. "Daniel was in a car accident a while back. He has amnesia." After Mike spoke, Chloe looked at me, a thoughtful expression on her face. She was staring at me so intensely that I swallowed hard and turned to whisper to Mike, "Did I used to have a thing with her?" Hearing that, Mike did a spit take with his drink, his face a mask of confusion. "I have no idea, man." I raised an eyebrow. "Probably not. Besides, from what I'd heard, the old me was completely devoted to Sarah. He wouldn't have looked at another woman." Chloe didn't linger. She turned and rejoined her friends for a drink. A few minutes later, Mike said he had a family emergency and had to leave. I left the bar soon after, but instead of going back to Sarah's mansion, I took a cab to a hotel and checked into the presidential suite. I was half asleep when I heard the doorbell. I stumbled out of bed to answer it. The moment I opened the door, a woman threw herself at me. It was Chloe. What was she doing here? Chloe wrapped her arms around my neck. Her eyes locked on mine, and her lips parted as she spoke my name. "Daniel Miller." I could smell the alcohol on her breath. She'd clearly had a lot to drink. "Can I help you with something?" Chloe nodded. "Yes." The word had barely left her lips before she was kissing me. I was completely stunned. What was happening? The alcohol haze in my head vanished instantly. When I came to my senses, I gently removed her hands and took a couple of steps back, putting some distance between us. "Chloe," before I could finish my sentence, her eyes rolled back and she fainted. I lunged forward and caught her just in time. The next morning, I was woken by a voice. "Daniel, Daniel." I opened my eyes to see Chloe lying beside me in bed. She was grinning at me. "You have to take responsibility for what happened last night." I shot up in bed and quickly explained, "Nothing happened last night. Don't get the wrong idea. She'd been clinging to me all night and wouldn't let go. So I had no choice but to let her sleep here, but I swear I didn't lay a finger on her." But Chloe just acted like a spoiled child, throwing her arms around me and holding on tight. "I don't care. I want to be with you. I want to be your girlfriend." My eyes widened. I never would have guessed she had a crush on me. I was genuinely shocked. Seeing me silent, Chloe poked me in the chest and pouted. "Daniel, couldn't you tell that I like you? I've waited so long for you to finally divorce Sarah. I'm telling you, you are not going to disappoint me again, you hear?" Chloe was beautiful, and honestly, easier on the eyes than Sarah, but I'd only just met her last night. This was all moving way too fast for me. I licked my lips. I don't remember anything from before. You have to give me some time to adjust. How about we just start as friends and see how it goes? Maybe she thought I had a point, because Chloe finally let go of me. Fine. She tilted her head back and smiled at me. "In that case, you can take me to breakfast." I looked at her smile. Damn, she was beautiful when she smiled. All right. After breakfast, I finally saw the heiress, Chloe, on her way. I didn't waste a moment, rushing straight back to the mansion. As soon as I walked in, I saw Sarah at the breakfast table. She looked up at me and asked coldly, "You didn't come home last night. Where were you?" I gave a vague answer. "Out with a friend." Now that the settlement money was in my account, I didn't have to put up with her attitude anymore. I headed for the stairs. "I'm going upstairs to pack." "Daniel," Sarah called out, stopping me. "You can keep living here, you know. You don't have to move out." I looked at her, surprised. What was she getting at? But I was past the point of trying to figure her out. "We're divorced. It wouldn't be right for me to stay here. It's better if I move out." Then I went upstairs. I had a lot of stuff, and most of it was valuable, so it took me the entire morning to get everything packed and moved. I bought a large, fully furnished penthouse and moved right in. Once I was settled, I dragged Mike to the Mercedes-Benz dealership. I bought 2 cars, one for me and one for Mike. He was ecstatic, saying that meeting me was the luckiest thing that ever happened to him. My life became very relaxed after that. With money in the bank, my days were filled with food, drinks, and fun. But after a while, I got bored and decided to look for a job. When Chloe heard I was looking for work, she called and offered me a job as her assistant. I figured being an assistant would be pretty easy, so I accepted. I started at her company the very next day. Chloe didn't give me much to do. My main tasks were making her coffee and joining her for lunch. The rest of my time was my own. It was a great gig, easy, stress-free, and comfortable. On Friday night, Chloe asked me to accompany her to a business dinner. When we entered the private dining room, Chloe had me sit beside her. Several of the executives at the table glanced my way and started whispering among themselves. "Ms. Anderson, isn't your new assistant the one who was married into the Thompson family? You mean former son-in-law? Sarah Thompson dumped him, so now he's here kissing up to Ms. Anderson. That's why he looked familiar. I heard he used to be a delivery driver." They went back and forth, mocking me. It was infuriating. If it weren't for Chloe, I would have flipped the table and walked out. The next moment, Chloe stood up and slammed her wine glass on the floor. She declared, "Daniel Miller is my boyfriend now. You will all show him some respect, or I'll make sure you pay for it." I was surprised by how fiercely Chloe defended me. It was impossible not to be moved. After Chloe's outburst, the table fell completely silent. The men exchanged nervous glances, then turned to me with apologetic smiles. "Mr. Miller, we were just joking. Please don't take it to heart." I smirked. The Anderson Corporation was a major player, so of course they wouldn't dare cross Chloe. Just as I was about to speak, I caught a glimpse of Sarah standing in the doorway. She didn't look happy. She must have overheard the conversation, but I couldn't be bothered to care. An hour later, the dinner was over. I helped a tipsy Chloe out of the restaurant. "I told you to drink less, but you wouldn't listen. Now you're so drunk you can barely walk." Chloe leaned almost her entire weight on me, giggling like a fool. "That's because I have you here. I knew I'd be safe." I looked up and saw Sarah standing right in front of us. I tried to pretend I didn't see her and walked past, but she spoke first. "What's going on between you and Chloe?" I was so sick of her. She was the one who cheated on me, and now she was acting like she had the right to question me? Unbelievable. "That's my business." Sarah frowned. "Daniel, you were never like this before." I couldn't help but laugh at that. "Ms. Thompson, have you forgotten?" "I have amnesia. I've forgotten everything about the past." With that, I helped Chloe walk away. The next morning, I was in the kitchen making oatmeal when Chloe woke up. I glanced over at her. "It's almost ready." Chloe gave me a quick kiss. "Okay, I'm going to go get ready." After she left, I touched the spot on my cheek where she'd kissed me. My face felt warm. A few minutes later, the doorbell rang unexpectedly. I went to get the door and was surprised to see Sarah standing there, holding a bag of breakfast food. She smiled and offered the bag to me. "Daniel, I bought your favorite dumplings. Let's have them together." I looked at her blankly. "I don't like dumplings." Sarah looked skeptical. "How is that possible? You used to buy them all the time." I said nonchalantly, "I probably only bought them because you like them." The smile on Sarah's face froze. I had guessed correctly. Even though I don't remember the past, I had a feeling Sarah hadn't married me out of deep love, but more for the novelty of it all. A rich girl like her had probably never encountered a broke guy like me before. She just wanted to have some fun, and once the novelty wore off, she got bored. "Daniel, is this about Leo? If it is, don't worry. I've already broken up with him. There's nothing to be upset about. Who you're with is none of my business." "I don't believe you." Sarah stared at me intently. "Daniel, you love me. You're only acting this way because you've lost your memory and forgotten our past." I scoffed. "What past?" "The one where you cheated on me with a boy toy, and I just kept forgiving you, waiting for you to come to your senses." The color drained from Sarah's face. "No, that's not it. I know I was wrong. Please, just give me another chance." "Daniel, who's at the door?" Chloe came up behind me and wrapped her arms around my waist. When Sarah saw Chloe, she swayed on her feet, as if she couldn't process what she was seeing. "You're really with Chloe now?" Before I could answer, Chloe let out a light laugh. "Miss Thompson, you and Daniel are divorced. There's no need for you to be so concerned with his life. I heard you and that 20-year-old college student are getting pretty serious. Why are you suddenly interested in my boyfriend again?" Sarah's lips formed a thin line. Her eyes were glued to me, as if she was waiting for me to deny it. My expression was neutral. "You see how it is. I'm doing fine now. If there's nothing else, you should go. Please don't come here again." Sarah flinched as if struck. "You think my coming to see you is a bother?" Without hesitation, I replied, "Yes." Sarah's eyes suddenly reddened. She turned and stumbled away. I closed the door and headed back to the kitchen. Chloe followed beside me and, after a moment's hesitation, asked, "Daniel, do you want to get your memory back?" I was stirring the oatmeal and didn't look at her expression as I shook my head. "No, I'm happy with the way things are now. Forgetting Sarah and putting that failed marriage behind me is probably the best thing that could have happened. You have to learn to let things go to find happiness." Chloe let out a sigh of relief. Chloe and I were getting along great. I love to cook, so every day after work, I'd go grocery shopping and make dinner for her. She loved my cooking so much that she eventually moved into my apartment with me. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "You're a respectable young woman. Aren't you worried about what people will say?" Chloe didn't care in the slightest. Why would I be afraid? I couldn't care less what other people think. One afternoon, Chloe and I were out having lunch. We unexpectedly ran into Sarah and Leo, but it was clear from the atmosphere that this was no date. It looked more like they were in the middle of a fight. Sarah suddenly shot to her feet. "I told you we're over. Stop bothering me." Leo stood up too, grabbing her hand. "Sarah, I don't accept that. Just tell me what I did wrong. I can change, I promise." Mike had told me that Leo's family was poor. His life had taken a massive leap forward after Sarah took an interest in him. So, of course, he didn't want to break up. I wasn't surprised that she was breaking up with him, though. A woman with her money and power, used to getting whatever she wants, was never going to be faithful to one man. Sarah yanked her hand away from Leo, her voice filled with disgust. I said, "We're done. Stop harassing me." She turned and saw Chloe and me standing there, and her expression faltered for a moment. The moment Leo saw me, he became enraged. "You must have said something to Sarah to make her break up with me." With that, he raised his hand to swing at me. I dodged easily, and he stumbled, falling flat on the ground. I frowned. "Leave me out of your drama. This has nothing to do with me." Sarah stepped forward and linked her arm with mine. "Leo, listen carefully. The man I love is my husband. You could never compare to him." I had no idea what kind of scene Sarah was trying to create. Chloe gave Sarah a displeased look. "Miss Thompson, you and Daniel are divorced. He's my boyfriend now and my future husband. Please have some self-respect." I pulled my arm free from Sarah's grasp. "Stop talking nonsense and go play with your boy toy." Chloe smiled at me, satisfied. "Honey, let's find another restaurant." I didn't want to stay there a second longer. I turned to leave, but was stopped by Sarah's scream. "Daniel, look out." I whipped my head around to see her collapsed on the floor, blood pouring from a gash on her forehead. It was a shocking sight. Leo stood over her, holding a broken wine bottle, his face a mask of pure panic. A second later, he dropped the bottle and bolted. It was obvious he had been aiming for me, and Sarah had gotten hurt trying to protect me. About half an hour later, I stood looking down at Sarah in the hospital bed. Her forehead was wrapped in white gauze, and she looked pale and fragile. "If there's nothing else, I'm going to head out. You get some rest." "Daniel," Sarah called out, stopping me. "Don't you love me anymore?" I couldn't help but laugh. How did she have the nerve to ask me that? Did she really think my entire life should revolve around her? Or that because she got hurt protecting me, I should be so moved that I get back together with her? It was laughable. "Sarah, we were over the moment you betrayed me." I didn't think Sarah actually loved me. It was just her possessiveness. She believed that I should only love her and no one else. Sarah started to cry. "Daniel, if you hadn't been in that accident, if you hadn't lost your memory, you wouldn't be like this. Before, no matter how I treated you, you would never have left me." It was the first time I'd ever seen her cry. It seemed she was genuinely heartbroken. Amnesia or not, the outcome would have been the same. "I couldn't wait around for you forever." At my words, Sarah began to sob even harder. Her tears just irritated me. "I know one thing for sure. What we had is over. Even if I get my memory back someday, I won't regret the choice I'm making today." When I left the room, I saw Chloe sitting quietly on a bench in the hallway. I walked over to her, and she looked up. "Is Sarah going to be okay?" I sat down beside her. She'll be fine after a few days' rest. Chloe just said, "Oh," and fell silent. After a moment, she asked, "You must be really moved that Sarah got hurt trying to save you, huh?" I finally understood why she seemed so down. She was worried I might get back together with Sarah. Not at all. If she hadn't been messing around with guys like Leo in the first place, none of this would have happened. I took Chloe's hand. "Don't worry. I'm not interested in going backward." Chloe smiled. "That's a relief." I raised an eyebrow. I thought that would be the last I'd see of Sarah, but I was wrong. That evening, as Chloe and I were leaving the office, I saw her from a distance, standing there holding a large bouquet of roses. Sarah looked at me. "Daniel, you were the one who proposed to me all those years ago. Now it's my turn. Will you marry me again?" She held up a small velvet box, revealing a dazzling diamond ring inside. A crowd had gathered around us, including some of Chloe's employees. Sarah continued, her voice ringing out, "Daniel, I love you. I wouldn't have married you otherwise. I was foolish and lost my way, but I see clearly now. I just want to be with you. I want to prove to everyone that my love for you is real." I knew what she was doing. She was creating a public spectacle to pressure me into taking her back. Chloe, her cheeks puffed out in anger, let go of my hand. I looked at Sarah, then, right in front of her hopeful eyes, I pulled Chloe into my arms and kissed her deeply. Chloe froze, completely stunned. It took her a long moment to react. The roses and the ring box slipped from Sarah's hands and fell to the ground. Her face was a mask of pure shock. I don't know how much time passed before I finally pulled away from Chloe and whispered, "Silly girl, you're the one I want. No need to be jealous, okay?" Chloe blushed and buried her face in my chest. When I looked back at Sarah, her eyes were red and brimming with tears. I had not only rejected her proposal, but had also publicly kissed Chloe, which was a massive slap in the face. Her voice trembled as she asked, "Daniel, do you really not want me anymore?" I took Chloe's hand and said coldly, "Sarah, don't ask pointless questions like that. You'll upset my girlfriend." Sarah looked like she was about to collapse, stumbling back several steps. I looked at her and sighed. "Just let go, Sarah." With that, I led Chloe toward our car. As I drove away, Sarah was still standing in the same spot, motionless, seemingly oblivious to the murmurs of the crowd around her. Suddenly, the sky opened up and it began to pour. The crowd scattered, but she didn't move an inch. Watching her, I felt absolutely nothing, as if I were looking at a complete stranger. I guess it was because I didn't love her anymore. Whether she was cheating with Leo or crying and begging for me back, it made no difference to me. I didn't see Sarah again after that. I heard she fell seriously ill and was hospitalized for 2 weeks. After Chloe and I made our relationship official, she suggested I help her run the company. But I turned her down. I had no desire to be cooped up in an office staring at spreadsheets all day. My passion was food, so after much thought, I decided to open my own restaurant. Chloe was fully supportive. "Whatever you're passionate about, I'll support you 100%. I smiled and stroked her hair. That was the difference between her and Sarah. With Chloe, I didn't have to pretend to be someone I wasn't. I could just be myself. Chloe even gave me the capital to start the restaurant, insisting on being the primary investor. She said if it made a profit, it was mine, and if it lost money, it was on her. I smiled and pulled her into my arms. "Marrying a woman like you, I've truly hit the jackpot." Chloe blushed and playfully punched my chest, her face glowing with happiness. "Who said I was going to marry you? You haven't even proposed." I pulled a large diamond ring out of my pocket. "Is it sparkly enough? Do you like it? Will you marry me?" The moment she saw the ring, Chloe burst into tears. She never expected me to actually propose. Her voice thick with emotion, she asked, "Are you serious?" I slid the ring on her finger, wiped away her tears, and said softly, "Of course I am. I want to marry you. I want to spend my life with you." Chloe threw her arms around me. "I love you." When Chloe's parents found out about us, they weren't opposed at all. They didn't look down on my background. In fact, they respected me and treated me like their own son. 2 months later, Chloe and I had a magnificent wedding. As Chloe walked down the aisle toward me in her wedding dress, I was overcome with emotion. My eyes welled up. It turns out you really do cry when you marry the woman you love. What they say online is no exaggeration. I took her hand, and our eyes met. We saw our reflections in each other's eyes and couldn't help but smile. "I love you, my wife." And I held on tight to the happiness that was finally mine.